So capacity is very important because not only would it let you know if they can basically afford it, but it's going to build the leverage that you have in the loan. And that's why it's an important piece of important structure. The reason why I had deals ghosting me or leaving me is because I ignored the capacity. I ignored the leverage, the pain. And what I mean by that is when I used to, take my applications, I just kind of went in a systematic process. I just followed the 1003 in order. And I'd ask credit cards, like how much do you own credit card debt? 20 grand. And I move on to the next question. But to identify capacity actually gives you leverage. It gives you the pain. So a long time ago, when I started my sales career and I first became a loan officer, right? I had this frustration with me, and this frustration really bothered me because I was seeing everybody around me win, meaning that we're making more sales than me, what seemed like in less hours than me, because I was really pushing out the hours. I was putting in the work. I was young, I was brand new, and I was excited to be a loan officer because that was like the biggest thing in my life, you know what I mean, that I could have ever imagined of me becoming somebody. Because right before, I was actually selling cell phones in the middle of the mall at some kiosks for Verizon. And so becoming a loan officer was a big deal to me. Anyway, when I hit the floor running, I was put in the work and I was just going at it. Like I was revved up, I was motivated, I had a lot of hustle, and I was just doing things. I was like a muscle car without having a track to run on. So I would just literally go anywhere and everywhere, bump into shit. And it just felt like I was making a lot of movements, right? Like I was talking to a lot of people, I was doing a lot of applications, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't make the sale. People were ghosting me, people were going through my competition, people literally just wouldn't make a sale with me. They wouldn't agree with me. And this is very, very frustrating. And oftentimes it wasn't necessarily they wouldn't make a sale, is that they didn't qualify. Or I would literally get deals in the pipeline and they would just die. And if that's ever happened to you, like you've had deals go into the pipeline, you've worked on it for a minute and you're almost counting the money, right? Like you look at the loan amount and you're like, ooh, man, this is going to be juicy. And they just die, man, you just feel it, right? It kind of weighs on you. And so anyway, that was happening to me, at least for my good first 3 to 6 months. And so I had this older veteran inside my office who ultimately became my mentor down the line. And I shared with him my frustration, because it seemed like he was just working literally a fraction of the time that I was working, but he was just banking. Like he was the top producer. He walked around the office like he had all the time in the world. Nothing really bothered him. Just real cool, mellow dude, right? And so anyways, I met with him and I asked him, my man, how do you do it, bro? Like I'm over here pulling my hair out, about to punch my screen, because nothing I'm doing works. Either they leave me or I get them in the pipeline and they don't qualify. It's like all I could do is attract people that just can't do a loan. And so he taught me this one valuable lesson. And if I could share this one valuable lesson with you, I believe that it's going to help you increase your efficiency. So you're not working tons and tons of hours. You're not having to sacrifice your weekends. But more importantly, you're going to be able to cherry pick. And what I mean by cherry pick is we're in a season right now, we're in the market right now where you don't need to chase Mr. Patel. You don't need to, convince people, that you're the coolest person. Man, you got a lot of people coming your way. You got a lot of people in the market that could use your service. So you could be very selective with who you invest your time with. But I didn't understand that at first until my mentor taught me this. Every loan has 4 pillars. Think of pillars as the structure of a building, right? And so every single loan has 4 pillars that hold it up. So these 4 pillars that hold it up, think of the acronym VICC, V-I-C-C. So pillar number 1, V, is for value. Value is very important, right? Because that determines the flexibility or the options that particular prospect has. So you have to identify the importance of value. But here's the thing. When I used to ask people like applicants, like, hey man, what do you think your property is worth? I used to take their opinion and just run with it. Never did any research by my own. I'm like, okay, dude thinks his house is worth 500,000, and then turns out the appraisal comes back in, dude's a hoarder, so it's like worth 200,000. But I priced everything out to 500,000, so now my loan doesn't work, right? Or worse yet, I would do research. I would go to like Zillow or Redfin, and then I'd pick the one with the higher value because it made my loan work. Like I had a biased opinion. And so I noticed that when I was asking that question, I was getting more deals that would die, right? Because I would more or less throw it up against the wall and hope it sticks. But value plays an important role. Without that structure, my loan will fall apart. Get it? Because it needs all four pillars. And so a better way to craft your question when you ask them is you want to say this and say, based on properties within your immediate area that look just like your house, if you had an appraiser come out there today, what do you think they would say your house is worth based on the sales of those like properties? Now, when you get very specific, you get very specific answers, right? Because to every homeowner, they believe their house is the most valuable one on the block. Of course they do. It's their house, right? They got a lot of pride in their house. So me, in my opinion, I think my house is worth $2 million. But ain't no other property around there selling for $2 million. But to me, it's valuable because it protects my family. It's my home, right? It's my cave per se. It's my shelter. Anyway, keep in mind that without value, your shit's gonna fall apart. But he taught me the second pillar, which is for pillar number 2, I. That's income. Income is another important pillar for your structured loan because without income, again, your loan's gonna fall apart. Now, here's the thing that I used to do that ultimately came to my demise, because when I put loans in the pipeline, they would just fall apart. And I would ask my applicants, like, hey man, how much do you make like gross annually? And they would be like $120,000. Okay, cool. And I put $10,000 in the income block on the 1003, right? You know what I'm talking about. And then I would think that, oh man, I got some dude that qualifies. Fucking, this is dope, right? And so I get the loan in, get into processing. Underwriter turns out and says, hey man, they weren't making $10,000 per month. They're making $3,000 per month, but $4,000 was from overtime, and then $3,000 was from commission, and they needed to average it out, and so it ended up dying. Or maybe all that commission was written off because maybe they were self-employed or because they had a 1099 income. And so I noticed that. I was like, man, that's why my deals are dying. So you need to understand, without the pillar of income, that shit's going to fall apart. So how do you rephrase your question to make sure you got that second pillar? This is how you say, okay, what would you estimate your gross annual income? They say 120,000. How much of that 120,000 is actual base salary? And then that's going to kind of segment it, because you need to break it down. One of the most basic reasons that loans fall apart is because of value and income. Income wasn't scrubbed correctly. Income wasn't done correctly. And again, value and income are two pillars that are going to hold your shit up. If you don't have it, it's going to fall apart, right? And so with income, you gotta figure out the details, man. If there's anything that you want to take your time in investigating, it's these four pillars. So value, income, and credit, right? So value and income. Third pillar is credit. Credit is just as important, because you need to understand if they're going to have limitations, because you need to craft your conversation based on what's applicable to them. And so I was noticing that I was spending like 30 minutes on a phone conversation talking about cash out, talking about, oh man, we're going to do great things to your house. I'm going to get you some cash so you could fix that roof or get that pool, right? And then come to find out, when I got to the declaration questions that's on page 3, again, 30 minutes into the conversation, I found out this dude just had a foreclosure on a rental property, or this dude just short sold a second home, or whatever it is, right? Or just came out of Chapter 7 bankruptcy 3 years ago. And so I spent all this time talking about cash out on a conventional loan or opening an equity line of credit when this dude never even qualified for it. And man, that was just burning up my time. And so I literally spent 45 minutes with some dude that I just had to let go and then go try and find another. So what I did was I moved, in order to rephrase and recraft my dialogue and the flow of my conversation, I moved my declaration questions, or at least some of the declaration questions, to the front end of the conversation. Make sense? And so I would ask very important things that I know that don't show in the credit report right up front, or will show on the credit report, but I need to know because that's going to determine the direction of that conversation. So I would ask things like, are you responsible for any alimony or child support? Right? That's a fucking important question, because that's gonna mess with your other pillar, which is income. Or right, and then I would ask, have you had any recent bankruptcies or foreclosures? Do you have any judgments or liens against you? Right, I would move that a little bit closer to the front, because if they said, yeah, I need to be able to kind of put that fire out, but more importantly, I need to know what kind of conversation I need to have with dude. If I need to start talking about and crafting, FHA or VA or whatever government loan that they may qualify for, or better yet, identify if they don't even qualify and get the hell off the phone with that person, because there's nobody going to win from that, right? So again, value, income, and credit. Those are the three pillars. The fourth pillar is just as important. It's called capacity. Capacity is basically, think of it as your back end DTI. It's how much you can truly afford. Because keep in mind that when we talk to these individuals, we're talking about the gross income, right? They don't see, they know their gross, but they don't really take home their gross. And so they take home their net. And so capacity is very important, because not only would it let you know if they can basically afford it, but it's going to build the leverage that you have in the loan. And that's why it's an important piece of important structure. The reason why I had deals ghosting me or leaving me is because I ignored the capacity. I ignored the leverage, the pain. And what I mean by that is, when I used to, take my applications, I just kind of went in a systematic process. I just followed the 1003 in order. And, I'd ask credit cards, like how much do you own credit card debt? 20 grand. And I move on to the next question. But to identify capacity actually gives you leverage. It gives you the pain. And so now, in order, when I craft my message, I ask things like, are you responsible for any daycare or any child expenses, child hobbies, right? Do you have any other outside debt that you're obligated to? Like like family support, like, or do you provide financial support to any family members? These are things that we don't see, we'll never know about unless they tell us about it, right? And the reason why it's important is just as important to ask, if you say, and this is a very common question, how much do you guys owe in credit card debt? And they're going to say, but let's say, for example, they say 20 grand. Like, capacity is going deeper and further and saying, how much do you currently pay on that 20 grand per month? Estimate's fine. And they say, oh, Daniel, I pay about $500. The key to capacity is asking, is that the minimum payment or is that above and beyond? Is that, no, that's the minimum payment. I see. What do you use the rest of your money on? Right? Oh, I got kids, I got hobbies, I got after school activities, I got daycare. And so then capacity, which changed the way I was originating loans, opened up my eyes and said, oh, that's why it's the fourth pillar, is because that's what keeps it glued to you. Because you need to identify the capacity. Most loan officers are losing deals in the back end to the competitors because the other competitor was the one that identified the capacity. And so they took a little bit of time to understand the importance of these pillars. And so when I figured out to really nail in the capacity and ask questions like, okay, after all these bills are paid, your mortgage, your credit cards, your insurance, your daycare, your after school activities, how much do you have left for you? Like, what are you putting inside your checking and savings every month? And then they're going to say, oh, I put like 500, I put 1,000, right? Because it's always inflated. And then I go deeper because I understand the importance of $1,000 per month that you're adding to your savings every month. How much do you currently hold right now? And they're going to say, oh, I hold $500. But boo-boo, you just told me you put $1,000 a month inside that account. How are you going to have $500? And you know what they say? It's like, oh, expenses come up. But guess what? Because I went deeper into the fourth pillar of capacity, I was able to identify that this dude is living check to check. This dude got mass obligations and financial responsibilities that don't report on his credit report. And that's how I was able to make it stick together. Man, when my mentor taught me about these 4 important pillars, my life changed, bro. I became so efficient. I quadrupled my results. But more importantly, it was like butter. The systematic process that I teach at Sales Remastered, it had to do a lot with understanding that we have to sell people to help themselves. Because if we don't know how to properly communicate to these people that we engage with every single day, and we sacrifice our time to spend with every single day, right? Because we're obligated, because we have a compensation factor. Like, I need to communicate with these people. They need to like me and do business with me in order for me to get paid and justify the reason why I'm even putting in these hours. But here's the thing, though, is that if you don't know how to properly communicate with them, you're not going to be able to sell them on helping themselves. And it's a sad, sad story, right? You ever felt that way? Like, you got a competitor that does piss poor job, got boo-boo service, but they're winning the deals. Right? Why? It's because they just understand how to craft the message a little bit more efficiently. And that's what you get here at Sales Remastered. You just get a better way of crafting your message. You get to remaster your sales. You see, I drop a lot of this content on a daily. If you haven't added me on YouTube or Facebook, please do that now. If you haven't liked or viewed any of my videos on my posts, please do that now. But more importantly, do yourself a favor and give yourself a competitive advantage. Go to salesremastered.com, link in my bio, and download a copy of the sales script. It's free. Just use your personal email address. Give yourself that upper hand and register for my emails, because I'm dropping content all the time that's going to set you apart. You see, when my mentor taught me that one valuable lesson, my life changed, my income changed, my confidence changed, and just projected me or put me in this path of reaching success much faster. And I hope that this valuable lesson that I learned years ago becomes just as valuable to you. I'll see you guys on the next video. I appreciate everyone taking a minute to watch. See you. Bye.